I effed up and I'm reading the chat before the show starts, and you people are effing hilarious. Good evening, good morning to people that will be listening to the audio only podcast of this later. I am your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Red Zone, the sports show hosted here on the TIR channel. We want to remind you on the Red Zone as well that it is the holiday season, and you can give the gift of love. It's holiday season. You can give the gift of a TIR patron membership. With that membership, you can guarantee that we can do more shows like this, which is usually Mac and I going so far off the rails that we get scoldy messages from people that we do have to take into consideration sometimes. It's like a live champagne room for 3 hours, and you guys are here egging us on. Yes, you people are the instigators. And if you people want to give the gift of love, you don't want to wrap anything, hey, I got you the perfect gift. Liberal Aunt Sarah, who still walks around with that I'm with her Hillary shirt, give the gift of the TIR patron membership right there. Scan that QR code. Takes you right to the screen. Also, give a TIR mug right there. Decolonize your caffeine intake. And Anglo-pessimism. It's not just for white people anymore. Everyone can wear the Anglo-pessimism shirt as seen here on the screen. Just scan the code. Just do it now, because time is running out before you get it before the holidays. Imagine the look on cousin Stephanie's face. She opens that up and says, I'm not a pessimist. Well, Stephanie, you're a liberal. We just wanted to fuck with you. So there's that. I'm totally kidding. But I am serious. And all that being said, if you appreciate this show, at the very least, this channel, hit like, hit subscribe, share this show with all of your friends. Let them know there's a really good sports show that sometimes talks about sports. Well, they'll always talk about sports, but they're also going to talk about funny dude shit that all dudes can relate to. You don't care about your preferences. You're going to relate. But I was driving the other day and got stuck in some traffic and listened to horrible late night sports talk football, which is always like super conservative. And they were talking about the softness of the NFL, and they were taking calls. Those calls were scary. Speaking of calls, we're going to be taking calls today. Because my co-host can't make it. Matt can't make it. He's actually working late at the dealership tonight. He hit me up early and said he couldn't do it. And I was like, I could cancel the show because I'm doing something every day this week. And there's this wacky thing called rest that people need. And I was like, fuck that. Let's open up the phone lines. I know half of you are fucking shit-faced anyway, so I want to hear some drunk TIR fans call in and yell at me a little bit. Sounds like a good time to me. But I'm being serious. We're going to open up the phone lines. Just, you have to give me a second because there's one device that does a lot of things for this show. Turn one on. It's a lot going on. But, see, we got superstar Paul Prescott here in the chat, Philly fan extraordinaire. Professional football, like many contact sports, is inherently violent with on-field collisions often compared to the impact of car crashes. This physicality is a major attraction for millions of fans who flock to stadiums across the country to witness the intensity of the game. Despite ongoing efforts to improve player safety, the sport remains dangerous as athletes continue to grow bigger, stronger, and faster. A recent example involved Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence, who was knocked unconscious after a late hit by Houston Texans player Aziz Al Shahir. The play, which unfolded at remarkable speed, highlighted the risks inherent in the game. Lawrence attempted to slide late, a maneuver where players signal surrender and are protected from further contact. However, in the NFL, unlike the college game, quarterbacks can fake a slide, exploiting defenders' hesitation to avoid penalties for unnecessary roughness. This tactic, famously employed by three-time Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes, has sparked debate among fans. Critics argue that such strategies reflect a softening of the game, diverging from its traditionally hard hitting nature. Comparisons to earlier eras, particularly in the 80s and 90s, often romanticizing the supposed toughness of quarterbacks from that time. Yet these nostalgic accounts overlook notable instances of player protection and disciplinary action, such as I'm not doing a good drum roll because I'm holding a remote control in my hand. But I can kind of sort of do a drum roll because I'm kind of competent as a drummer. Kind of. It's my weakest instrument, probably. That's saying a lot because I'm not very good. But the 1986 suspension of Green Bay Packers defensive end Charles Martin for body slamming Chicago Bears quarterback Jim McMahon. Who remembers that? Dr. Claw, like Pepperidge Farm, should remember that since Claw and I are like the same age. I was really excited to have Mac here for this because I don't know if he remembers it because he's a little younger than me. And I literally remember because I didn't watch the game. It was not broadcast in my area. This is before you could watch every NFL game with a satellite. I remember watching the highlights of that, and it knocked Jim McMahon out for the season. It's one of the most insane hits I've ever seen. And to this day, I've never seen anything like it. The NFL's commitment to safeguarding its players is not a recent phenomenon, but has evolved significantly, particularly following high-profile incidents like the Tua Tagovailoa. I hope I said his name right. Concussion controversies and the broader concussion lawsuit that reshaped the league's approach to head injuries. While football remains a fast-paced, violent sport where injuries are an unavoidable reality, the assertion that the league has become soft is unfounded. Instead, these changes reflect a necessary shift towards balancing the inherent violence of the game with the safety of its players. If you remember that hit on Jim McMahon, that player, Charles Martin, had names of Bears players on his towel. Players that he wanted to injure. This was 86. So this will be 3 years before the infamous Bounty Bowl game where the Eagles played the Bears, right? Cowboys, sorry. Eagles played the Cowboys. And allegedly, the coach, Buddy Ryan, was paying players extra money to knock players out. Initially, former kicker Rafael Zendejas or Tony Zendejas, they were paying, I think it was $100 to knock him out of the game. But this player, Charles Martin, had numbers of Chicago Bears players that he wanted to injure. Jim McMahon threw an ill-advised interception. And after the play was over, I believe over 2 minutes after the play was over, as Jim McMahon is walking back, slowly contemplating his mistake. And this is at a moment where Jim McMahon is really turning it on as an NFL quarterback. He comes into the league in a strike-shortened season. Does okay in 83, a little better in 84. They go to the Super Bowl in 85. 86, he's really taking control of the offense, right? Because this is in an era where calling audibles for certain coaches was a no-no. And calling audibles in Mike Ditka's offense, big no-no. National champion head coach Jim Harbaugh has a very famous chewing out, as he was supposed to be the solution to the Jim McMahon problem in Chicago for calling an audible and then throwing an interception. Even players in the field say that Harbaugh called the right audible, but threw it to the wrong read. Anyway, as McMahon is walking back, Charles Martin grabs him, picks him up over his head, dips him on his shoulder. McMahon was already recovering from a shoulder injury, so he's kind of playing a little injured. This is late in the season. I believe this is week 13. And it was never really the same after that. Like I said, Harbaugh comes in a few years later because McMahon is sitting right after that. That was the first multi-game suspension by the NFL for a dirty play, and that was 1986. If you go back and look at fines that players received for hard hits on quarterbacks, even in the 80s, it's a common thing. It's not a new phenomenon. And as I was listening to this radio show, people were calling in and talking about the good old days. Now, what's funny is I'm officially old enough that the good old days they were talking about was like my era of watching football. So there's that. But the good old days for these people usually was, I would say, the mid 80s. So post the 83 draft. The 83 draft is a draft that gives us people like Darrell Green, John Elway, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly. I think technically Steve Young comes out but goes to the USFL. I think Reggie White goes to the USFL, but he comes out in 83. It's a big year for great players. Tony Eason, who went to a few, Roger Craig comes out that year. If we go down the list, we'll just be naming, Hall of Famers and Pro Bowlers for a long time. And that was still a different NFL. They're playing in pro set formations. There is a lot of running the ball. Quarterbacks are leading the league with 3,000 plus yards passing. 4,000 yards passing in the season is still a Herculean feat in a run first league. Eric Dickerson comes out in 83, rookie of the year, runs for 1,800 yards. Fucking insane season. He breaks the rookie record. He demolishes the rookie rushing record with 1,800 yards. His rookie season, and the next year he demolishes a record that still hasn't been caught to this day with 2,100 yards the next year. Insane player. We really forget how great Eric Dickerson was and how fun he was for those Rams teams. Had they had better quarterback, I don't know, maybe if the Niners weren't so dominant. But I don't think the game is too violent, and I don't think players are too soft. If anything, I think players have gotten, as I said in the intro, bigger, stronger, and faster. And I do think the NFL is trying to do its best to prevent collisions, that ruined careers. I think players are equally as violent as they were, right? Sean Taylor can't decleat a kicker, a punter in a Pro Bowl game anymore. But that doesn't really take away from the game because there's still hard hits. I watched some college football and I watched some NFL football over the weekend, and I saw some ridiculously hard hits, all legal. The college game, I would say, has more precautions than even the NFL game, where usually when you see a hard hit, a flag is thrown, but it is reviewed. And I do think the college game is a lot better for not allowing the fake slide, because now I'm not going to get Mahomes. You pretend you're fake sliding, we'll take the 15. Sorry, I'm not going to get embarrassed. We're going to decleat the shit out of you, Patrick Mahomes. And that's pretty much what happened to Trevor Lawrence. These guys are running extremely fast. And some of them are hitting you with bad intentions. I watched, there was a lot of screaming watching some of these hits from these college league championship games. And the Big 12 championship game had an insane hit. Oh, and the SEC game had some good hits. But an Arizona player just mollywopped the Ohio State quarterback. And when he hit him, he did like this, making the motion of two hands under his head as if he laid him to sleep. A flag was thrown, and after review, no penalty. He didn't hit him helmet to helmet. He actually led with his shoulder. He did everything technically correct. And that's what we're talking about here. A sport where when you do everything technically correct, you're hitting people above their knees. You're not going for their head or trying to go under their chin. Shoulder first, not helmet. You still can lay some motherfucker out. And I wish I would have saved that hit. Oof. And what happens is we see the images, and I think now we're more cognizant of what we're seeing. In the 90s and 2000s, there was a segment on ESPN's post-game show called Jacked Up, where they would show these massive hits. Going over the middle has changed, but going over the middle was violent in the 70s, so much so that certain players were charged with assault. Players like Jack Tatum, literally charged with assault. Lynn Swann pressed charges. Can't hit people early. There's a rule there for a reason. And certain teams, again, years ago, were like, no. This is our ethos. You must strike fear in their hearts. And these were some of the things, the sentiments that were said on this radio broadcast. I miss the days when you had to strike fear in the quarterback's heart and take them down quick. It's like, I think these guys still get hurt. Last I checked, they're still starting quarterbacks on IR. Last I checked, these guys are still getting their bell rung. It's not fun to get sacked by a 300-pound man that has insane leaping ability, large hands, and again, is coming after you with bad intentions. That's why I'm impressed with the poise of some of these young guys, like Caleb Williams. Even Shedeur Sanders in college has some great poise in the pocket. CJ Stroud has great in-pocket poise where they don't really need to break out of it right away. They know how to step up. They can even step up when it's a little congested. It takes a certain amount of bravery because you're going to take a shot. How many of those shots can you take before you're like, I don't want to take any more shots? And Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray, I think, are not soft or benefit or I don't think they benefit from a soft era. I think they're really smart. When you watch those guys run, They understand how important they are to their teams, and them sacrificing their body for the extra yard, while reporters and people like us can go on and on about how great it is, about how they rallied their team. You know what really rallies their team? When they slide, get the first down, and then score a touchdown on the next play and they win the game. That's when people know, okay, you're my guy. You're going to make smart decisions. The term business decision got real popular to the point where it's kind of this pejorative, but in the case of people like Mahomes and Kyler Murray's like 5'10". I think Kyler Murray is incredibly tough, really hard to tackle. He has probably the best scramble in NFL history for a touchdown. The last year where he runs around for almost 2 minutes before he throws a touchdown against the Oakland Raiders or the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm just effing up things left and right. You have to excuse me. But seriously, that guy's tiny. He's not 200 pounds. Again, he's 5'10"-ish, maybe. I don't even think he's that tall. He's a tiny dude. Not afraid to step up when he needs to. Not afraid to take off and run when he needs to. But because of his baseball ability, this is a number 1 draft pick in Major League Baseball. Kid can ball. He's a great slider. I'm giving myself up. I'm not going to get knocked 9 ways to Sunday for this extra yard. And now the Arizona Cardinals are back in the bottom of the basement again because we have to, have this revolving chair of quarterbacks to wait for me to get back from my concussion because somebody just blew my head right off. Head still in the helmet, rolling around like a goddamn video game. And Kyler Murray's had some injuries in the NFL, despite how good he is at getting down. Joe Montana. All these guys talk about Joe Montana was so brave. Was he? Motherfucker missed quite a bit of time. Probably could have had way better numbers for a career had he not been injured so much. He was really good at sliding. But he also took some wicked hits because the game, that's just what's going to happen to you. You play it long enough, you play it at a high enough level, someone's going to hit you. Can't avoid them all. When we see Tua go for the extra yard, it's like, oh, that's why everybody cringes. Like, oh, of all people, don't do it. Because now we know what happens when those guys are laying on the ground. We don't cheer the way we did when the jacked up segments went on. Remember that segment where they showed Keyshawn Johnson go over the middle to catch a ball? He still held on to the ball. They knocked shit out. I can't remember who knocked shit out of him. Knocked shit out of him so bad, he literally had snot bubbles coming out of his nose. I don't know if you like Keyshawn Johnson or not. I don't give a shit. But we know now what happens to these guys afterwards. These guys that we loved so much that carried out the punishment and the guys that received the punishment. We know that at some point, they're my age, if not younger. I'm only 47. Lost in a grocery store. The minds of 80-year-old people from the hits. And eventually they put a bullet not to their head. So many of them have put bullets to their chest. So they, with suicide notes, they say, please examine my brain. Oh no, the game is not too violent at all. It just is a violent game. And you're going to see those hits every so often. 3-game suspension was a bit much. But people love overcorrecting. Those were massive lawsuits. And the NFL is still trying to prove that it's safe. It's like, is it? I don't believe you. But how much of that has to do with coaching staffs and doctors, making sure players can play before they're ready to play? Because ultimately, we saw this with the NCAA saying, we don't want to see a Florida State with a fourth string quarterback play in a bowl game or a playoff situation. It's just not good football. I'm sorry. Crazy things have happened with backups. Jeff Hostetler has a ring on his finger. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he doesn't become that until he backs up the first overall draft pick, Drew Bledsoe, after he is mollywopped on the side of the field in front of him. I believe Tom Brady goes, I thought Drew was dead. He was hit so hard. So I don't know what a backup quarterback can do. I'm always amazed at what people can do. Put him in crazy situations. Isn't that fucking great Dick Vitale or Jim Valvano quote about why God loved ordinary people? Because every day ordinary people do extraordinary things. Put the backup in. I want to see what the motherfuckers got. Who knows? Who fucking knows? But that wasn't the product they wanted on the field. So of course players rush themselves. They have bonus incentives to play so much, to gain so many yards, to have so many touchdowns. Of course they want to be on the field. Look at the Niners. I think they really believed that they could coast without Christian McCaffrey for the majority of the season and get him back 100% so he could be firing on all cylinders when they, at worst, got a wild card spot. I don't know if that's going to happen now. Maybe, but and now McCaffrey's out for the season. Not sure. See, Newer Yank says rugby tackling is very technical. And there's more and more rugby players coming into the NFL. You know why? Because they want to make real money. Sorry. Give a shit about your rugby sport. Actually, a good friend of mine played professional rugby. Really good friend of mine. Drummer of a great band called Armed for Apocalypse. Check them out if you like heavy music. But I want to take your guys' calls. I want to see how you feel about this. Also, Alabama did not make the college football playoff. Well, all right. I'm excited to see SMU. That was a great championship game they were in. Great game. I think SMU will be exciting to watch. Arizona State's in. Don't sleep on Arizona State. Cam Scatterboo is a beast. Is he the best running back in college football? I don't know. Is he the most exciting to watch? By far. By far. The other year when all their quarterbacks were down and he took over the quarterback spot, it was insane to see what he did. Also, Bill Belichick took the job at North Carolina. He's going to be the head coach. Is he ready for the college game? Some people believe the college game is very similar to the pro game with the portal and NIL money. That may be true to a certain extent, but it's vastly different. There's rules in the NFL, and players sign contracts in the NFL. Most of this NIL stuff are handshake deals first and foremost. What's covered, it's the player's always not getting all the money we think they're getting. It could be tied up in other things. we already saw a player take off because he didn't get the money he was told he was going to get, and the school's response was, "You're not worth that much money. What are you, fucking high?" Yikes. So the NIL has not been the panacea that everybody thought it was going to be for college sports, right? Pay the kids. I'm all for paying the kids. They generate gajillions of dollars. Of course, they should be compensated. But why did we think this compensation, extremely unregulated, was going to be totally fine? College football already is a bit of the Wild West when it comes to paying people. But there's kind of sort of a system now post the SMU death penalty to try to not get in trouble. And what you usually see is agents ratting out people that don't sign with them. I will repeat this. What you usually see is agents ratting out people that don't sign them. You think the NCAA has a bunch of like Ninja Turtle kind of spies where they're walking around like the turtles did with like an overcoat and the ninja mask and a hat? Is that a fucking 6-foot turtle with fucking ninja stars walking around with an overcoat? No, it's just an inspector. Don't worry. It's fine. Yeah. No. There's no crack team of NCAA. There's a bunch of snitches. If you do anything illegal and you get caught, it's not because the cops were smart. Somebody told on your ass. Someone told on you. How'd you get caught cheating? Your best friend that wanted to fuck your wife told your wife. That's how you got caught. I'm not sorry I had to laugh at you. You know it's true. Eric W says 100%. There's mob movies that try to make these guys out to be these honorable people that we live by a code. I guess that code is tell on a motherfucker when you get caught, because that's what happens. Someone always tells. Watch one of these dumbass first 48. They have 48 hours. What are they going to do? Well, usually we just beat the shit out of this guy here and he'll just start naming names. And then we're just going to arrest somebody that seems like it makes sense. But the scorned agent, there was a great story a friend of mine told. I'm trying to think how I can say this without outing this person or their client base. I won't. Oh, you know what? I guess I can. I guess there's a way to say it. I have a friend that's a big time agent, and she was telling us a story. And she had lost out on a big time client. I won't even say the sport, but this guy had a pretty decent career in this professional sport. But when this person was coming out of college, they were a big deal. And she had done a lot of recruiting to get him to come to the agency. Met his family, everything. Ran into him at like the Olympics or something and was like, "Hey, fuck happened, man? Thought you were on board. Your mom met your mom." And he goes, "Oh, this videotape appeared at my house." And it was the outside the line story. And there was a story about a player that wasn't that good. That was he got drafted in the second round. The agent said, "You should go to Europe and play because you're not going to make it in the NBA. You're going to get cut. Go to Europe, actually make some money. And when you go there, they're going to hold your passport for you." And the player wasn't that bright. And when he went there, he was under the impression that he was kidnapped because they were holding his passport for him. And a rival agent said, "Where's your passport?" And the guy was like, "They took it." "Exactly. You're kidnapped. I will rescue you. That's the kind of shit agents do, right? Why did Reggie Bush get caught? Again, not because of the fucking I Spy NCAA crack staff. The guy he was supposed to sign with was like, fuck you, dude, I'm telling. It's dirty business. And when you do dirty shit, you have to understand that everybody is dirty as fuck. And they will tell on you and feel nothing. Nothing. There's no code. Fuck that. And when you go to prison, they tell on you in there too. One of the most famous cases of witness protection is about a man who lied about what he saw in prison to get witness protection, kept his witness protection, and then went on a drug-fueled, murderous rampage, starting with his underage bride, took him cross country. And how did he get out? Because he lied on somebody. He told. Agents are the worst. They telling on everybody. Mr. Crashner says, yeah, like don't tell people you're into pegging. Trust me. I look down, that's the first thing I fucking see. But I want to open up the phone lines. I want to hear what you guys have to say, not necessarily about snitching, because I just think it exists. I don't believe in the honor amongst thieves, keep your mouth shut. Not that I'm telling on everybody. It's just I understand that a lot of people know who wants to go to prison. Shit's not fun. It's not a party in there. If you're telling this guy you won't go to prison, oh, word? Claw did it. Can you put him at the scene of the crime? Do you want me to? Because I'll say he was there if that's what it takes for me not to go to prison. Yeah, he had on his brown jacket. Nigga always wears a brown jacket. Brown jacket, ass claw. That's what we said. Ain't that right, Billy? And now Claw gets Norvilled. See, someone on Twitter says, yes, exactly. Snitches. I hate it. Double the nut load. Still the funniest shit. I can't find that clip to make it a soundboard drop. Because that guy said, bro, double the nut load. Eric W says, man, Claw got bucked. But tell the truth. Seriously. Even when we were kids in school, your best friend would be the first person to tell on you. Hey, who's talking in the back? Jason? Jason Miles, social security number. What the fuck? I thought we was cool. Nigga, you ain't cooler in detention. But let's open up the phone lines. Give me 1 second and we will open up these phone lines. I'm very excited to hear what you guys have to say about a bevy of topics. But is the NFL too violent? Is it just violent enough? Is it not violent enough? Do you want more over the middle collisions? I actually like the way the game is played right now. I feel like I see less pass interference calls now than I saw 10, 15 years ago. And that's saying a lot because that's really when pass interference started to get called a lot. Where you just started to see guys go on just 9 routes. And then Ashley Lee was famous for that with the Broncos. Just go deep. Someone's going to try to pull at your feet because you're so fast, and then throw the flag. You guys are so mean. Is Dr. Claw watching right now? I hope he is. But just kidding, Claw. I wouldn't tell on you. I wouldn't tell on you. Depending on what you did. It all depends. Depending on the level of felony, I could not see it. I didn't see it. It wasn't me. Wasn't me. Depending on the infraction. So give me 1 second, and I will turn the phone lines on. But what I'll do now is I'll put the phone number up so you guys can get ready. Boom. Area code 510-319-1899. Again, that's area code 510-319-1899. All right, let's go. Give me 1 second. All right. The phone lines are up. Area code 510-319-1899. 510-319-1899. You guys have to call in. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Don't write it. Don't be little bitches. Fucking call in. Here's your chance. We're not keeping it behind the paywall of the champagne room where we know all the calls are going to be quality. I'm leaving it out there in the internet ether for anyone to call in. Nurieg says, ooh, fancy, man, with an intermission now, are we? No. I told you guys a long time ago, they let me put my own music up instead of the AI music, so I get pretty excited about that. Dr. Claw, you know you want to call in. Come on. We love the sound of your melodious voice. Did we talk about the AJ Brown Hurts drama? No, C Mills. You know why? Because you can call in, goddammit.
We coming for you, nigga.
Just call in, C Mills. Don't be a punk. 510-319-1899. Do it. See, when I don't have the phone ready, you guys are like, you should open up the phone lines. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to open up the phone lines. And you guys are like, I don't know, man. I'm eating hot Cheetos right now. Fuck, you know, it's Wednesday. Come on. Let's do it. Agents be Norvilling out here. I really hope you guys have been using these terms in your everyday life, because whenever I do this show and I see you guys say this goofy shit, it makes it does something for my soul. I mean that literally. This show is such a breath of fresh air. Like I got to get ready after I'm done with this for a very depressing tomorrow night with a person I've been trying to get in the show for a while, Malika Jabali. Oof. Tony says we're shy. Tony, don't be a punk. Ugh. Are you a certified bitch ass? Because that's what you're telling me right now. I don't think you're a certified bitch ass. Right? We got some callers. And you know what the callers aren't? Certified bitch asses. Okay. Calling from a 425 area code. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's JC from the Sailor Sea. Social teetotalism, fuck the world.
Yeah! What up, dude?
Just got a quick question for you. I mean, I could rant about how you're wrong about soccer and working class soccer players, but I just want to know where David Feldman is. Why isn't he on this show? Have a good one.
Not on the show because he is not a fan of the show. This would definitely be something that he probably would chime in on. And after the last time he talked about combat sports, I don't think I've ever been that angry before in front of a camera. And I voiced my opinion for those that want to see it. I'm sure it's out there. I don't know if he took it down. I don't know. Not my brightest moment. Kush looks as we pass the sports stuff yet. You can call in, Kush. You can call in and you can say how much you love this show, even though you don't watch sports, which I think is hilarious that you don't just watch the show, but you chime in and talk shit with the rest of us. And Kush, I do have to say this before I take the next call. I want you to know this. I don't remember what show that was, and I think that was a Red Zone where Snippy the Elf was created. And I was watching an old made-for-TV movie last night. And before it started, I had to pause it because I couldn't stop laughing thinking about Snippy the Elf, because that was the perfect nickname, because the movie I was watching was very similar, but it didn't have the nursery rhyme aspect, which made the other movie so funny. Like, hickory dickory dock, I'm cutting off some cocks. Like, that shit wasn't there. But it was obviously Lonnie Anderson, who's supposed to not be the bad guy in the movie. I haven't seen the end yet because I fell asleep. But there's a person calling, it's like, I'm the killer, and obviously it's not Lonnie Anderson trying to sound like a man. I don't know who it was, but it obviously wasn't Lonnie Anderson. How do you know? Well, they said they weren't. Killers are so honest. So yeah. Let's take this next call. This is fun. Calling from a 559 Central Valley. We know who this is. Calling from a 559 caller. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Eric. I'm actually calling from Minnesota right now. How you doing?
You're cheating
Can you
on
hear me
us.
okay?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Indeed. And I've been trifling, but you do it so long, it's just you almost don't know any other way, right?
Yes. But when are you going back to California?
In a couple weeks, man, for hang out with the family for Christmas and try to avoid some of the snowstorms. So I figure the last couple weeks in Christmas time, and then like the first week of January. So
we have to hang out, man. We have to hang out because I always stop I stopped kind of in Bakersfield, but I need to make an exception and just stop closer to you and just try to get out there and at least meet you halfway or something.
Either way, because we could, you know what, we could even do Pismo, get some clam chowder, because I keep telling everybody out here, you know, Pismo Beach is the blue collar beach of California, but in my opinion, in the eye, it's not as pretentious.
I love Pismo Beach, and I agree with your assessment. I used to live there before I came to Mexico. I was staying with my very good friends in the Pismo area. So, as much as I love the Bay Area, I love the Central Coast that much as well.
Absolutely. Before you, and especially from the Bay Area, before you get down there, right? You go see the sea lions at Morro Bay. I don't care what anybody says. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I agree. But what's up, Eric? What'd you want to yell about?
Oh well, gosh! It's every time you guys have these sports shows, you always kind of bring back memories. See, I used to play college football in a kind of a small claim to fame. I actually spent 6 weeks in Canada with British Columbia, the Lions, and I just wanted to attest to the fact that a lot of the shit, they only find out about things when they get told. But then, as far as the NFL being too violent, I actually concur with you in that I kind of like it now because it doesn't seem as many people are taking cheap shots or roughing the passer, or too many other. I mean, and that's the serious assessment. I mean, if I'm being kind of funny or joking, oh no, it's not violent enough. We need to have these guys back where men were men and all that nonsense. But what I always kind of think is funny is that when they talk about head injuries, I remember when I played back in the day. I'm not that old, but when you would tackle with your head looking down, that was bad. You were never taught to go into either a tackler or tackle a ball carrier with your head down. That was always very, very bad. And it always just bothers me when I still see these guys that do that. And it's almost like they either encourage it because, boy, they let them get away with that a lot.
Yeah.
And I know helmet technology is light years ahead, but guys, that is no excuse. Just for poor tackling ability or just for poor, how to play the game. It was just weird because I think back on when I was playing, and I mean, all right, look, we used to get away with some shit, but I mean, that was always, you didn't want to do that because you didn't want to fuck yourself up.
Yeah.
And the way things are now, I mean, it almost explains a lot of what would happen back then. I mean, in fact, even in general, like you mentioned, the NIL, double-edged sword. I actually think what they didn't account for is that you have to. It's a team sport. Mm-hmm. In fact, not only is it a team sport, you have to pay attention to the losers. Why do you need to do that? Because if you don't have the losers, you're a circus show, and nobody gives a shit. You're P.T. Barnum, just go on a train. When you don't do that, then that's a big issue. In fact, that used to be a big issue, like in the Central Valley. I don't remember how involved you were, because you're in the Bay Area. So yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named Bud Winters. He's the best track coach that nobody's ever heard about. Mm-hmm. The connection to Usain Bolt that nobody knows or even gives a shit about. But that used to be a big track and field, Bob Mathias relays. That used to be a huge thing. But they narrowed the talent pool. And now it's just about dead. That was my other sport besides football, because football, you needed one, it was politics, but then two, you need a team just at the end of the day. And at least with track and field, for the most part, your odds of actually doing something with it improve marginally, because if they want you, that's at the end of the day, then you're fine. It always kind of reminds me when they talk about that kind of stuff with with the Olympic team, but I don't know if anybody remembers or gives pays attention to track and field, but like with Carl Lewis, the last 4x1 men's 4x1, he was left off of, and they were he didn't run a very fast 100-meter time. You are not catching that man on a running start. That's how you have to gauge him, and they didn't do that. But I digress. Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that. He was left off that team. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it's just for the dumbest reason, right? For the dumbest reason, yeah, okay, for sure. But a straight ahead 400 or 100 meter, that was, fine. But you're not running a straight 400 meter. Or 100 meter, I'm sorry. 400 and 200 was my event. So I'll mix and match those. But that's not how you're supposed to do that. It's supposed to work as a team. That's why you're supposed to practice together and then get a good flow, get a good cohesion. Because some guys, myself included, you were not beating us either at the first leg, second leg, third, or fourth leg of that relay. Carl Lewis was one of them. He was not losing you that race as a tanker leg, period. And if you didn't want to acknowledge that, it's like, okay, you got something else going on. And I know a little bit too much that I don't want to say on air. Well, I'll have to tell you when we get together in Pismo or, Fresno or something. But suffice it to say, I think it's one of those where it's a step in the right direction, but they gotta have much better execution, because like right now, the way I see, especially like with NFL or like in college, it's getting way too kind of consolidated. And I mean, what else are you going to do when you don't have people are just kind of pomp and circumstance, because I spent enough time in Southern California where not too many people gave a shit about football. And it's kind of a niche world in a way. I was shocked when I found that out. This is after I graduated. And the first few jobs, like, oh yeah, is it football season? They were dead serious. And oh yeah, because beyond, okay, yeah, rooting, cheer, they didn't give a shit.
Yeah. No, it's not. LA is not a football place. Baseball, basketball, not football.
Yes, they love the Dodgers.
They love the Dodgers.
Where I was in Orange County, they love their Angels. Yeah.
Yeah, two teams I could live without. Yeah, keep going. Fuck the Padres too.
What's that?
I said more teams I could live without. Fuck the Padres too while we're at it.
Oh, hey, my buddy was a Padres fan, and I kind of told him we had to not get along during those games. So it's, I was actually raised a Giants fan of San Francisco. My mom's dad was a big Giants fan, so that was hey, there we go. It was a dark year. Those years, with the what was that series, the Battle of the Bay?
Yeah, don't remind me that, please. I'm from Richmond, and my friends.
Yeah, anyhow, good topic, but but no. So that's the that's the thing. It's almost like if you don't pay enough attention, then they find some way to screw it up. And now it just, with the last couple shows, you did with how you can break into these sports is, if you're not out there just doing it for yourself, don't even bother, because they have who they want. They know who they want. It doesn't have anything to do with talent per se. Not to say that they're not good, but I was going to actually go, I remember you made a point last week, or last week, that they're getting training and whatnot. But let's just say that everybody's, the guy, in the backyard, he's just getting really good. He's getting really, really confident. But are they going to give you a tryout? Are they going to evaluate you the same way that they do the people that they want to see?
That's a good point.
I can tell you right now that stopwatches get a little slower when it's somebody they don't want. All of a sudden, somebody who's not making a cut just as, quote, crisp as the guy that they want. So there's that. If you're going to try to destroy yourself, I always tell guys, don't. If you have the opportunity, great. But I'm going to tell you, as well as I do, there's guys that'll probably blow the doors off of these people that are getting paid to play.
Yep. That
just either didn't care at the time, or just, I like to plumb. No pun intended, but you know it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very true. So I don't know. You bring up a really good point about if they don't want you, they kind of know who they want, and I want to touch on that before I take the next call. Ken, thank you very much for your call. I hope to see you in the Central Coast.
Hey, absolutely, man. Hey, have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I'm going to try. I'm going to try as best I can. But Ken brings up a really good point about the chip process, right? The blue chip. Is he a 5-star? Is he a 4-star? Is he a 3-star? Is he a no star? One of the guys that's going to be up for the Heisman this year, Cam Ward out of the University of Miami, was a no star and transferred his way to the top. Another question to ask is, has he gotten better as a player? I don't know. He looked pretty good at Washington State. Is he better at Washington State than he is at Miami? I don't know. Is he playing with better talent? Maybe. Is he playing against lesser competition? With better talent? I don't know. Does he have the skills for the next level? I don't know. When you hop around from program to program so much, what are you really learning other than just other systems? His ability to adapt to a system is spot on. I know a lot of these systems are similar at this point. Still, his ability to learn this information and to play well on the field, execute plays, not just run around and throw the ball real far. Pretty good. I think it translates to the next level. As a starter, again, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Ohio State quarterbacks, and CJ Stroud has changed me. I'm a changed man because of CJ Stroud. My God, is he fun to watch at the NFL level, even though he's having kind of a rocky season. A lot of players are hurt, but he's a really good, fun to watch young man. Okay, we have a caller from an area code that we haven't had before. I think this might even be a first-time caller. There was part of me that almost got a first-time caller drop. And I was like, no, that's like, we can't go full-on radio show. We're pretty bad. We can't go full radio show. Calling from a 929 area code. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
What's up, Jason? It's Virtuoso. What's good, man?
What's up? It's Virtuoso.
Good.
Crazy ass Virtuoso.
Thank you.
What's up, Virtuoso?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I just wanted to talk about tonight's topic. I felt like the NFL was too violent. I'm putting it in past tense because I feel like with the rule changes, I think it kind of deterred players from using their helmet, using their shoulders, and plus the redesign of these equipment, like make it so, But the irony of it is that with that, making those shoulder pads smaller, they are faster.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more aerodynamic, and that generates more force. So I just felt like that's a catch-22, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a good point.
I remember when I used to play Madden, and I'm not talking about these years, they suck now, but when I had it for Super Nintendo, you remember the ambulance?
Yes.
That it would come in and it would run over players?
I do remember that. That was the coolest shit in the world to me.
It is so funny and yet morbid.
Yeah.
But I fucking loved it, man. And it's like, that's how I learned about the game. I wasn't a football player, but I really became a serious NFL fan, like during the first Bush term. That was my high school years. 01, 05, man. That's when I started enjoying the game. But yeah, I do remember Jacked Up, man. That was just glorified head trauma, man. And I was one of those barbaric fans that was kind of hyped up for that segment, man. But looking back, yeah, I do feel kind of bad, man. Once they had that PBS documentary, I forgot what the name was. I think you know about it.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Where they had that African doctor that came, wow. Because I really didn't know how, at that time when I was following the NFL, I didn't know who Mike Webster was. But finding out years later what happened, how it happened, you kind of look at it and say, damn, with the popularity of the sport, right? And how many people take part in it, based on the number of players you can have per roster.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like, based on the level of injury, and how severe it is, how they come out of it. It feels to me like, and this is a theory for me, I feel like this sport is like unsustainable to the U.S. population by how much it should take shorten people's careers, and that it's like the average is like 10 to 13 years. So there's going to be eventually like a high turnover rate, but they keep squirting out babies that want to play the NFL, and sure it'll just the sport will keep happening, but with the influx of soccer coming in and basketball and and other sports, yeah, I don't know what the future is of the sport. I just feel like that's what's going to happen. There's going to be less people going to enjoy it as time progresses.
You know what I think is saving the NFL, and this is going to be the unpopular opinion, and I'm not trying to say this as like hot take stuff. I'm saying it more as a literal observation. I think we're starting to see more white guys play positions that they didn't play before, namely quarterback and running back. And with the success of guys like Christian McCaffrey, not just the success on the field, but a success off the field in the ad world, you're going to see it with Cooper DeJean soon, and you're going to see it with Riley Moss in Denver as well, another good white cornerback. We're going to see more white guys playing positions that they didn't play before. I think that helps the league more than you think.
Because we see an influx of Latinos, though.
They're trying to get more Latinos into the game. Trying being the operative word. Football, and keep in mind, I live by the border, so everything is different, right? Prices are different here. The politics are different here. Everything is different, but I still live in a foreign country. That being said, I am shocked, virtuoso, that when it's football season, there's high school football teams, plural, and they sell water on the corner, and you see the kids out there with their gear selling water for the, to make money for the team so they can have equipment and travel and all this other stuff. That blew my mind. What blew my mind more was meeting an older retiree, an 80-some-year-old man that I think 10 years ago, he coached the high school football team. So it's been going on here for a minute. They're trying. It's just, can we see it beyond, kind of the kicker position? And I think we are, right? Even how many years ago was it that Victor Cruz kind of, blew the doors off the NFL with salsa dancing in the end zone, which was fun to watch.
Right.
Can they infiltrate Latin America? I don't know. Because it is a violent game. It's a hell of a lot more violent.
But they're certainly doing it in Africa, I believe. I think Nigeria is probably the biggest exporter of NFL players, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I would, dude. I'm shocked again. I'm shocked to see it here. I dig the game. Don't dig the imperialism, but definitely dig the game. And and it shocks me that there's multiple high school football teams in a place, and you can go down the street, and there's where they sell soccer balls, they sell footballs. So I still don't see, it's not the States, right, brother? It's not where I grew up in Richmond, California, with cats playing on the street, but it's a little more common than I thought. And definitely what really blows my mind is the weekends. The weekends when you see all these bars that normally have soccer games come Sunday, it's all NFL on the big screens on the sidewalk and shit. It's all NFL, and everybody's locked in. Some of it's for the tourism, but there's also people here that just fucking dig the NFL. Because again, I live by a border town where a lot of people got deported, and I think that has a lot of the influence here. I need to go to Mexico City to see if it looks the same way, and I don't know.
Right. So, Jason, one thing before I go, man, I do think those helmet sleeves that they put on those cushions that they put on the helmets nowadays, they look funny, but they should normalize that.
The league said you can wear it during a game. A handful of players do.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. We'll see what Keep getting concussions, and you'll put one of the motherfuckers on.
Yeah.
No,
All right, Jason, man. I'm gonna leave you, man.
Virtuoso, thank you so much for the call, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, man.
Latin players. We do need more Latin players. Fuck yeah. We need more Asian players. We only got like one full. There's been a ton of halvesies. Tons of halvesies. So many Asian halvesies. You don't count halvesies. That includes my children. We got some more calls. Fuck yeah. We should do calls on fucking Red Zone shows more often. We have a call from an anonymous number. Who could this be? This could be Ben Shapiro. This could be Andrew Tate. Or it could just be someone that's watching the show. Calling from a blocked number. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Kowalski.
Oh, shit. It's just Kowalski. God damn it. Are you going to talk about Lincoln, Nebraska, the most happening college football town in all of the Midwest?
I mean, Nebraska has finally achieved a bowl game in like 8 years. I think it's in New York. So,
the Pinstripe Bowl?
Yeah, yes.
Oof. Okay.
Look, I'll take it at this point because like we have had a program that has been needing a bowl game for like 8 years. So
yeah. And you've been missing out on all those extra practices. Max Brown pointed out that I didn't realize that when you are bowl eligible, your team gets to practice through to the bowl game. So you just kind of have a better team because you guys are more rehearsed. You're ready to go. You're in shape. You're conditioned. I didn't think about that. So the college football is better when Nebraska's better. And like I said before on the show several times, I have got to spend a Saturday in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's fucking insane.
Lincoln can have its moments. It's definitely a lot better when the teams are winning. I honestly think that like maybe half of the Husker fan base is now like volleyball fans because we're solid at volleyball. But it would be nice to see the Husker football team maybe start doing a little bit better. But the reason I wanted to call in is I think there is another issue that's going to hit football that is going to make it harder for the whole franchise to sustain itself.
Oh shit, what's that?
With the decline in rural populations, I think the widespread like love of the game is going to keep dying down with successive generations because it's a lot easier to make a basketball team and a volleyball team than it is a football team. And that broad appeal will continue to decline because I mean, like, it's been sad seeing a lot of small towns have to go from like 12-man football all the way to like 8 and 6. Like,
whoa,
it's depressing because there was like back in when was it, like 06 to 09, there was like a market drop off in the number of kids being born. So like when they all became high school aged, like a lot of the sports programs were like bottlenecked. And when you don't have that like crop of young people, I mean, then you don't really have a love for the game. And when you grow up, it's like, yeah, you enjoy it, but it's not, as ingrained because, you didn't play it. So I think you might see like a drop off just from that and like the whole point of football, as JFK put it, was to train people how to understand basically platoon squad leadership to make them more easily draftable.
Okay.
So like that incentive structure, I don't think is also there anymore.
No, especially not with NIL money in high school. That's a crazy thing to think. I watched an interview before the show started where someone was saying that the coaches don't like going to meet with a young recruit, and it's the recruit, their parents, and an agent, and they're like, I'm not dealing with the agent. And so that's changed the way college football is handled to the point where college football doesn't have coaches go out on recruiting trips as much as they have like GMs, if you will, of the football program, or sometimes even a sports program that goes and meets with students, because NIL has changed everything. I don't have a retort for what you said, Kowalski, because I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've thought about that a lot. It's been a long time since I've been in rural America. And one thing that you're reminded of when you're in rural America is how big America is and how empty America is when you're in rural America. Because again, like Nebraska,
Yeah.
there's like two places where there's people, right? It's Lincoln and Omaha. And then there's just people kind of spread out all over the place, these kind of smaller cities. And trust me, I've played
If
places.
you are within
Mhm.
10 miles of Interstate 80, that is 80% of Nebraska's population.
Yeah, which is insane to think about. And I remember again that time we were in. I've only been for one football game in Lincoln. We had played, I think, the Knickerbocker, which is in Lincoln. I think that's what it's called. The night before, and we were on radio the day before. And we just decided to stay. We had an off day and not a long drive, so we stayed. And it was dead. It was very quiet. It was a quiet Friday night, and everybody kept telling us, "Oh, wait till Saturday. The entire state convenes in this city." And we had no way to quantify that in numbers. There's millions of people that live in California, and for us to think that even everyone in LA convenes at the fucking Coliseum for a Trojans game would be an insane thought, because as Ken said earlier, football in California is kind of niche. So to see it, and I believe all of us were big football fans on that tour, except for my buddy Nick. So we dug it. We opened up. I remember we opened up the doors to the bus, and there was just people everywhere. It was fucking insane. It was first thing in the morning, and people were out drinking, partying, having a good time. And that, for a lot of people, is their college football experience, especially in places like Nebraska, Norman, Oklahoma, Tuscaloosa. These are small fucking cities where the population declines when school's not in session. So to see these great big parties on the weekends, I understand why people love their college sports. And Nebraska not having a winner has gotta hurt.
Oh, yeah. It's been, everyone refers to it as a dry spell. It was a hell of a drought. I mean, the program is getting better and back on its feet, but yeah, being in Lincoln for a game is actually quite a trip, because like the whole downtown area just becomes like a giant walkable city, tailgate parties everywhere. It's awesome. That, and it's not the 80s anymore, so the violence is to a minimum.
Somebody's asking, is Lincoln's got a good metal scene? Again, the last time I played a show in Lincoln, Nebraska was 2013. And I couldn't tell you. Omaha has got more of a legit heavy music scene, but I don't want to act like I'm shitting on
Omaha
Lincoln.
has a pretty decent music scene. I think Lincoln is a little more hit and miss, but I don't live in Lincoln. I live out in central Nebraska, what they refer to as God's country.
There's nothing.
It's just you and God. There is no one else.
You, God, and a bunch of tornadoes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just wanted to point out that I just think future of the sport could be in jeopardy. It's for the same reason I think like baseball kind of can't hold a candle to basketball. It's just the specialized equipment you need, like
Yes.
I just see basketball and volleyball as like the future of where sports is going. So yeah.
Well, I can't say you're wrong because I don't know the population numbers. Again, I haven't been out that way in a long time. I hope you're wrong. That's all I don't think you are. But I agree with you. The specialized equipment you need to play football is really hard. It's been a long even when I go up north to the Bay Area, I don't really see kids playing in the street, throwing a football around like me and my friends did. Even in our teen years in high school, we found time to throw a football around. Like I'm an old man, but if someone was like, dude, we're gonna play some two-hand touch right now, I'd be like, I'm so down. So Kowalski, thank you very much for the call. You have a very good rest of your evening.
You too. Good night.
Peace out. We got some calls, dude. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Mac, you're missing out, and Mac is going to be so hurt because when he comes back, I'm not doing this. You know how much this shit cost me? I was not trying to pay. I was like, if I could just wait a few more weeks, I can afford to pay the call-in bill. And I looked at Mac's message. I checked my bank account, looked at Mac's message again, checked my bank account. I was like, the show needs me. And then this went through my mind. You'd be surprised how many people love the crap. Sometimes I'm retarded. All right. God only left you with corn. Is there a pretty awesome metal scene? I don't know. There's some interesting metal scenes all over. There was a cool little metal scene in this little bitty place called Aberdeen, South Dakota. I remember that. We need more South Dakota callers. Calling from a 323 area code. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. Okay, I suppose the question is on like, is the NFL too violent, or like is that sort of what I'm answering?
Yeah, sure. Whatever question you have, but I'd like to stay within the NFL context.
Yeah. Of course, I was just trying to make sure that was the topic of discussion. I'm not trying to veer off the road or anything.
Yeah.
I would say personally, like, I definitely think it's super violent. I'm not one to really speak because I played lacrosse in high school, and I'm from LA, so like that's kind of rare. Like we don't really have lacrosse teams out there, but I played. I had some people from like the East Coast help some poor brown kids play lacrosse for free. They bought the equipment for us, but yeah, like I have firsthand experience with the concussion. I actually had a football player run straight into my head when I was playing lacrosse, and if you know the sport, like they don't really encourage like hits. Like you can nail body to body, but like the idea that you like ram head first into someone is like unheard of, and it's not really like it's kindly upon.
Yeah.
So that first concussion, I'm like, oh shit, like this is what happens to those guys. Like everything went black for a minute. It was the strangest experience. They said I couldn't play for 2 weeks, and I couldn't imagine someone like constantly getting up from that and then going back at it. And I'm not even like a big football fan. I love basketball and soccer, but I'm starting to get into it now just because I respect the tactics that are involved in football. So I'm more cerebral than I thought. I think part of the issue is just like the people playing the sport are just like their brains are turning into like mashed potatoes. Like I saw Tua, and just watching his hands convulse, it reminded me of like some crazy knockouts I've seen in the UFC because I'm also a big UFC fan.
Yeah.
And just like, I just never thought I'd see that. And like, I see people on TikTok, people on Instagram, people on Twitter saying like, he has to retire now. Like we can all see it. And I think the culture is definitely shifting, as the previous callers have said, that I have friends who played football in high school who are like, I would never make my kids play football. They're not allowed to. I think people are just wising up to the consequences of the sport because, it's a fun sport, I'm sure. but it's just so brutal that at a young age, it doesn't seem like it should be something a 9-year-old should be playing. I'm not sure if that's a good answer, but I'm starting to notice it in like my age group.
I've seen they changed youth football, and you have to be a certain age now before you can put pads on. And I know they're trying to get real strict about how to tackle properly. The original caller, Ken, talked about how to tackle right. You always have your head up. You don't have your head down. That being said, I think the game is just always going to have violence in it, right? You can have the greatest ref in any combat sport, and a cat's still going to get knocked out. Like, it's just going to happen, especially sports like UFC, where the gloves are incredibly smaller. The boxing skills are nowhere near boxing, right? Because these guys aren't boxers, mostly wrestlers, if that.
Yeah, no.
And you're going to get
some leg kicks in too.
You know, and you just see less leg kick knockouts than you do guys just get caught. And that's what the UFC, and I'm not saying the UFC is bad fighting. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that you get a lot more cats that just get caught easier in the UFC, and you get some just wicked knockouts. And, you know, when you fight, you're shortening your lifespan. You've signed up to do that. I don't know if we can admit that with the NFL. And I think we have to admit that with the NFL, much like boxing, you're shortening your lifespan with these hits.
Yeah, I think part of it is just so ingrained in American culture, and it's just like so ingrained in parts of the economy, like certain small towns. Like I have a boy from Houston.
Yeah,
he's telling me that their stadiums in high school are better than college stadiums. And I've never been to Houston before, but I took his word for it just because like he showed me some of how expensive some of those schools are. And the amount of money that goes in those football programs are actually like insane. When, like you think about it. But just like I heard him saying like soccer might get popular. I'm finding out also in Germany they're switching the balls for how kids head the ball, because that's a big part of soccer.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to find out that can also cause like head trauma as well as young as like 5 years old, because that's when some of them start training. And it seems like every sport sort of has its head trauma. I went to UCLA, and I'm talking to like a student who's like a pre-med, and he's saying like, yeah, we're on the cutting edge of learning how the brain works, and basketball players have head trauma. And you don't really think about it until your like whole body gets hit, but your head is also snapping inside of like, the brain is moving inside the skull while your body snaps. So all that contact, like you're not escaping it just because you play a different sport. I suppose like it's always going to be a part of sports. I'm not sure like what will ever change it, but I think that's sort of something that we're going to have to, like, as you said, like, we're just going to have to live with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure, like,
I didn't hear.
Yeah, like,
What'd
I mean,
you
if you have any, like, I was just saying, like, if you have any, like, suppose, like, what's the word? Insight on it. Because I suppose my thing is, if this is always going to be part of, like, sports, then I'm not sure, like, not saying we shouldn't do anything about it, but it's almost like, what can we do about it?
That's the great question. Thank you very much for your call. And shout out to Southern California. I love all the California calls. I don't know what can be done about it, because you can take precautions so far. I don't think we need to play two-hand touch. First and foremost, I think the fake slide needs to stop. Do like college. Just do like college. You can't fake a slide. Patrick Mahomes is good enough that taking out the fake slide is not going to destroy his game. And I hate the Chiefs with a passion because I'm a diehard Bronco fan. And I can say that with a certain level of extreme confidence that the fake slide is not going to ruin Patrick Mahomes' game. One thing I see that the NFL is certain players are getting way bigger. Quarterbacks are getting way bigger. Josh Allen is almost 6'6", I think. Cam Newton was around 6'6", 6'7". I told you guys that Cam Newton was standing behind me at Coachella. I didn't know. I thought it was a building. He's a massive man. Massive man. Josh Allen's a big fucking dude. CJ Stroud, big fucking dude. Some of these guys are massive dudes. And edge rushers are no longer the size of Reggie White. They're a little smaller, a lot faster and stronger. But if Von Miller is the prototype, edge rushers have gotten smaller. Middle linebackers have gotten smaller. But these guys are getting way faster. Running backs have gotten smaller as well. Derrick Henry's a freak. So is Eric Dickerson. We talked about Eric Dickerson early in the show. Eric Dickerson was like 6'4", 220, running like a fucking gazelle. Not as strong as Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is so strong. There's some freakish athletes. The tight end position has changed tremendously. The tight end position was a blocking guy that could kind of catch, basically an offensive lineman that had hands. He had to be mildly athletic. Remember big lumbering tight ends? At best, you had, a Mark Bavaro type, Russ Francis. Shannon Sharp comes in and just revolutionized the sport. Because people kept saying you're too big to play wide receiver. Well, what does that mean? Doesn't that mean he's going to be a matchup nightmare? Do you remember when cornerbacks were 5'7", 5'8"? Remember that? How many 6-foot corners are playing right now? The sizes of players have changed, which I find interesting because I don't see super large running backs anymore. But that position is changing as well. You really have to be able to catch out of the backfield. Everybody's shifty nowadays. Yeah. Maverick, I think that's the name. Says tight end is just a big wide receiver. That's supposed to be a matchup nightmare, right? Because you want to be matched up over a strong safety, which that position's kind of gone, or a linebacker. But how many teams are playing with three linebackers nowadays? Guys are coming onto the scene with 3 wide receiver sets. This ain't 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers running back and fullback. How many teams carry a fullback? The game is just really different. And maybe the high-flying NFL is saving us some concussions. There's still some wicked hits over the middle. We still see wicked hits over the middle. But you can't hit someone that doesn't have the ball. And that change, I think, helped quite a bit. A lot of those hits that we go, ooh, Virtuoso talked about. Virtuoso, brother, I'm with you. I'm no better. Me and my father used to love watching that and go, ooh. And even after I left the house, we talk to each other on the phone and talk about these crazy hits. So that change is right. If you're a defensive minded person, you probably feel like that makes the game softer, but that really is a defenseless player going across that middle, knowing that you were going to get hit even if the ball was overthrown. And that's also where you see how good a quarterback is. Shannon Sharp talked about that on the podcast that Marshawn Lynch has, where he talked about John Elway told him, if I'm throwing it to you this way, it's because you got green grass in front of you. If it's throwing it behind you, it means that somebody's coming to take your head off. If I'm hitting you between the 8 and the 4, it means you got trouble behind. Just grab it. And, this is why I'm throwing the ball to you this way, because I'm letting you know what's around you. That's a good quarterback. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. That's why those two put up such insane numbers when they played. That's why those two went to 2 Super Bowls. Let me Terrell Davis out. But what's outlawed that was very popular when they played? The chop block. Remember? That's what Denver did. They cut your ass down. Can't really do that anymore. It's not even about concussion. That's about saving somebody's fucking legs. Whew. Yes, what Ronnie Lott used to do to people. Ronnie Lott, Jack Tatum. There's a long list of players. There were things. Fred the Hammer Williamson, former NFL player turned actor, was called the Hammer, not because he had a huge dong. Well, I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But because it was legal to hit receivers over the head with a forearm. Pow! Forearm shiver cats. So they would have their arm broke. There were certain Raiders players that had their arm broke for like 3 seasons. So they could wear a cast and pow right over the head. That was legal until it wasn't. It's a crazy game. And people saying we need to make the NFL more violent. It's like, word? Are you one of those people that's like, oh, I like this city better when it was more violent? Word? You like the fucking city better when you could get shot just for being in the street? Like that was cool to you? Interesting that that's what you like. I guess you like to watch the animals then, huh? Piece of shit. We got some more calls. We got some more calls. Calling from a 612 area code. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Jason, it's Ken.
It's who?
Ken
Ken
from Minneapolis. What it do?
Goddamn all these Kens from Minneapolis. What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? You said what it do? That's so funny. How are you?
Well, first, less sexy red, more dochi. Just want to say that.
I'm all about that. I'm glad you watched the Champagne Room. That I really enjoyed that little verse. It's a fun little show she did.
That I watched that whole Tiny Desk concert. It was I watched it twice. I've never seen anything like that.
I never had heard of her until I came across that little reel thing on Instagram, and it blew me away.
Yeah. I had downloaded her latest EP earlier this summer, and I didn't listen to it, but because of the Tiny Desk concert, I was like, "Oh shit!" And when she was growling, I was lost my mind.
Oh man, I miss shows like that. Like I hate to be that. I don't want to sound like that dude, but I have seen. I guess the last hip hop show I saw was like 2018, 2019. But like the showmanship wasn't there. And when the older guys would come to the studio I lived in, the older hip hop guys, there was real big. They were real big about showmanship, and if they had a budget, they were real big about having a live band behind them, and sometimes even dancers. So I miss that element of hip hop. You know, bring back the fucking entertainment of it all. I don't want to hear you just, you know, I don't know, talk about your privates. I guess that's cool for a minute, but if you're just gonna go out there and walk around in a circle, say that bullshit, I don't really care. So Doechii put a show fucking together, and that was awesome. Oh no, did I lose you, Ken?
Yeah.
Oh.
So a couple of things before I get to your topic. First, I'm working on a new salad so I can redeem you. I'm working on a jicama raisin salad with maybe some sweet potato.
That might be interesting. Okay. That might be interesting. Not as good as Old Faithful. Okay.
No, definitely not. So I've had this theory about the violence in the NFL for a little while, and I kind of posted it up on the super chat before. And I think if you really take a look at what's happened, it really plays exactly to what you said: bigger, stronger, faster. But it's not decoupled from. It's not paired with the idea that in that same moment in the past 30 years, we've seen a reduction in the player protection. So the shoulder pads have gotten smaller.
Yeah.
They don't wear any of the padding they used to wear in the 70s and 80s. None of the thick-ass thigh pads, hip pads, tailbone pads. I mean, you used to see Eric Dickerson with that neck pad on the back of on his shoulder pad that protected his helmet or protected his head and his helmet. And I remember Eric Dickerson had the biggest shoulder pads I've ever seen on a human being in my entire life.
Yes, he did.
And I think there's something to an unencumbered player, and you add those three factors that you described. Plus, you got running backs bench pressing 500 pounds, squatting 800 pounds. You've got linemen running low 440s, and they're, the idea that violence is only happening in the NFL doesn't even take into account the collective violence from pee-wee football all the way up through high school and college football. And, add all of those impacts. It's not just even the head down bullshit that I don't think is happening as much as people want to say it is. And I watch football for forever, and I'm not as studied as you are and a lot of the callers have been. But I think the collective impact, what I can say is that I've had a lot of concussions, and not all of them were strikes to the head. Not all of the concussions were related to strikes in the head, or even from top of head hits. It could just be glances, the quarterback from Miami, he gets hit, falls to the ground. It doesn't even look like he gets hit to the head or it gets a severe strike, and he's out with a concussion. So the concussion upon concussion upon concussion, actually, that's devastating. And I think the body impact and the force, that the violence that people are getting hit because of the three factors that you said, is only adding to the detriment of the players' bodies. But here's the thing: the death of the NFL is not going to be coming from the violence of the football players. It's probably already happening just because of something that Kowalski talked about, and it has there is diminishing interest in younger students or kids because of their parents' fears of what could potentially happen down the road. So Pee-wee football has seen a decline in enrollment from younger ages. So that has had an impact. And I think to some degree what Kowalski said is true, but I'm an architect here in the Midwest, and one of the things that's happening is that even when rural school districts see a decline in population, what's happening also is that schools are actually becoming regionalized. So that kind of downward pressure on smaller schools is forcing them to come together and create larger school districts anyway, because that's what has to happen. So you get these large K-12 facilities throughout the Midwest, and it's just reestablishing that cohort of possible 11-man football teams, so they're not pushed down to 6 and 9-man anymore. So, but no one's talked about the. It's kind of interesting. Gambling. I think gambling is going to keep football going more than white cornerbacks. But I think that's a sign that's actually a bad thing, because what is horse racing? What do they call horse racing? It's just a bet.
Yeah.
It's not a sport anymore. It's just a bet. Same thing with boxing. It's not sweet science anymore. It's just a bet. So I think once football has hit this gambling thing, it's now become just a bet. You've got more interest in fantasy football than you actually have in the actual sport itself. So I think that's where the real rub is I think the death of the sport is actually the gambling aspect, because now it's just become a bet. It's not become a sport. It's become a bet.
That makes me sad. You just broke my heart. More so than Kowalski.
Sorry.
He made me think. You broke my heart. You just made me sad. But
well, if you want to take me out, I'll come to the East Bay at the end of the month. So if you want to come take me out, you can come take me out.
Oh, I'm gonna be up north for the holidays to see my little ones.
Thanks.
And everybody's in the East Bay. Are you gonna be in the Oakland area?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, I'm gonna be in El Cerrito.
That's where Mom lives. You know what? Do me a favor. Email me booking@thisisrevolutionpodcast.com. Email me your information so we can meet up.
All right. Cool.
Dude, thank you, Ken. Thank you for the call. Thank you for depressing the shit out of me. I appreciate you, brother. That's a good call. That's a good call. You know, we did a show. We did a regular TIR show on gambling. Clark Randall is the guy's name. Real bright young man. Real bright young man. Wrote some real good articles on sports gambling in general. And I do agree with Ken that the gambling is a problem. I've talked about it on this show. If it's just a bet, the game does lose something when it's just a bet. Just like boxing. When I brought up the question to people at the bar, I think I've said this before. I don't remember if I said it on this show or not. Mike Tyson, if you want to say he suffered, his legacy suffers because of the era that he fights in, more so than even his prison time. I think that's a two-pronged problem with Mike Tyson. There's several things we can get into if we want to talk about Mike Tyson. Trainer dying definitely hurt his career. Don King hurt his career. Going to prison hurt his career. The era that he fights in definitely helps him become this thing that's so massive. Muhammad Ali there was no video games. And by the time there was, Muhammad Ali was done fighting. But Mike Tyson's Punch Out, everybody knows Mike Tyson's Punch Out. The Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight is the most viewed streaming sporting event in history. There's a lot of things to lay out there to say that, to make that claim. But it is. I was at a bar watching it. I'm sure you guys watched it somewhere to watch that long-ass Netflix commercial. But I didn't know if we were watching a fight together. And the people not to say that you have to be a real fight fan to watch a fight. But my dad liked watching boxing, like a lot of young people, right? A lot of people watching the show right now. You probably started watching it because of one of your folks or a family member watched fights when they used to come on TV a hell of a lot more. And I just watched fights. I really enjoy boxing. UFC, not as much, but I still enjoy it. I understand the science behind it. I understand the strategy behind it. I love it. I think it's really, really interesting. But when it's just who you got, you're watching it in a different way. And we're not the same. And those people can kind of fuck up your fun high when you're watching a game, when you're watching with people that are just gambling and fantasy footballing and, you know, I need so-and-so to get the ball. It's like, dude, shut up. They couldn't throw the ball to so-and-so. I don't know. No. We're watching a great fucking game here, and you're worried about fantasy football. Man, go sit over there. Go sit over there with the people that we want to hit. Just go sit over there. The kids' table, if you will. Calling from a 785 area code. Is that Florida? Calling from a 785 area code. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Hello and good evening. Be kind to yourself. This call is coming from Snippy the Elf. That where I am calling is not far away. I'm chilling at your local queer cafe.
Hey, Snippy, how are you?
I speak in rhyme and stick to a script. So don't join me, Jason, or I'll cut off your dick. Snippy knows the truth and can see through a lie. Tonight, Mr. Mac told a whopper to both you and I. Max at a brothel wearing plastic wrap, see-through, with a muscle mommy over him, raining down raw boo-boo.
Snippy, the viewers are asking, is the NFL too violent?
Let this be a lesson to all in the chat. Don't compromise yourself like Mr. Mac. Be honest and a good comrade. Do so. Be quick, or Snippy's coming for you to cut off your dick.
Thank you very much, Snippy. Appreciate your call. I have no idea who that was. I can't say it's that Sam C. Snippy the Elf, dude. I'm being totally serious. I'm being totally fucking serious. You could probably see the water welling up from laughing. I was cracking up last night watching this movie that was not as good as Hotline with Linda Carter. Please watch Hotline with Linda Carter. It's on YouTube. It's called Hotline. Just type in Hotline Linda Carter. Bam, the movie comes up. It's on the Boomer channel. These are all things you people say as insults all the time. Boomer. Boomer. Boomer channel on YouTube. And they don't say it as a pejorative. It is for older people. The Linda Carter movie. You will hear Snippy, and that call does sound a lot like the actual voice in the movie. Hickory dickory dock, I'm cutting off some cocks. Why is everything a nursery rhyme with you? And then I watched a movie. I have to finish it because I have to make sure that Lonnie Anderson is the killer. I'm pretty sure Lonnie Anderson's the killer. It's called Whisper Kill. Once you watch Hotline, you will get bombarded with made-for-TV movies. You're welcome. I've been sleeping in my bed, trying to do some reading, as there's tons of books for next year. And last night, I said no, and I was watching that Whisper movie. I'm the killer, not Lonnie Anderson. And I fell asleep and I woke up and another made-for-TV movie, a two-parter with Donna Mills came on based on a true story. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been up since 3 o'clock this fucking morning. Do you hear what I'm saying? 3 o'clock Pacific time. I have been up trying to see, is Donna Mills going to get out of prison? There's no way in the world she would have ordered that hit on her husband's business partner. Oh. Did I then look up the actual story at 4:45 when part 2 is over? Oh, yeah. I'm not right in the head. So I appreciate you guys encouraging this behavior by calling it a Snippy the Elf. That's what I'm saying. We have one final call, and I did save this call for last. because it's a person I know in real life. It's a person that always has good things to say, and we dig the sound of his melodious voice. Please welcome the one, the only, Dr. Claw. What up, Claw?
You know what? What's up, man? And of course, my blood clot headphones decide they're gonna crap out on me. I'm gonna go switch in a second, but I did want to say first to answer the question of the night: is the NFL too violent? I just say it's violent. It doesn't need to be more violent. It could stand to be less violent. And everything that everybody said about how it's changed over the years, I've definitely noticed. And in general, I appreciate the moves that the league takes to, either disincentivize being so violent in the game. But it's not going to ever stop being violent. That's just the nature of the game. And the reason why I didn't end up playing, one of the reasons why I didn't end up playing football in, my teenage years was because a couple of reasons. The first one was I think there was some worry from my dad about me playing that game because of the violence. It was the same thing with my brother who did play, I think, at least the JV level, the younger brother. And the also part of it is I would have been one of those dudes, kind of like George Pickens nowadays, is a total head case because I didn't like the rules, I didn't like something like that. So they just knew the personality match plus the game was not a good deal. So, I went to being a spectator, took a different path in life. Wasn't the only sport that I was playing, but that was one of them. And that got cut real quick.
Well, you hooped in school too, didn't you? Didn't you hoop in school too?
No, that actually, so when I was in, I think it was in my preteen years, mostly, I played basketball, and because I was at the time taller than everybody else, I played the center. So I always had appreciation for that particular position on the field. Nowadays, I'd probably be a point guard type, player, because those are usually the shortest players in the court. When you actually see NBA players, or even not even just NBA players, but college players too, you see how tall these people are. It's wild. When he used to play with the Cavs, Danielle Marshall, who played center, kind of looks like DJ Pooh, for those who are wondering who he is. He used to get haircuts at the same place I did in Warrensville. And I went in there one time, he was there, and it was just like, I don't often see people significantly taller than I am. But when I saw him, I was like, yeah, that's what it takes to be a center in the professional game, to be at least that tall. A lot of that stuff, baseball, basketball, football, a lot of that got cut short, and I took a different path. But I had fun when I was doing it. But yeah, with the NFL, there was a lot of, the violence. It is what it is. One of the things that really gave me pause, one of the events that gave me pause was when Junior Seau died. This was long after a lot of the controversy started happening. It kind of reminded me of the Chris Benoit situation, but thankfully, in Seau's case, it wasn't he didn't end up harming anyone else but himself. But that was just kind of just a really big downer, and it kind of just a really thing that gave me pause about it. Because it's one thing when you're watching this guy go against the team that you're playing and you're rooting against whatever, but then when you hear a story like that, it gives you pause. What happened to him? And there were so many other players like that, a couple other players like that, but Seau was the one that stood out for me the most. A lot of we've seen a number of players. Now they weren't. I think some of these deaths weren't, related to actually playing the game, but When Vincent Jackson, well, I think he played on the Chargers and Buccaneers,
got shot.
That also got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was not related to playing the game. But Seau definitely was.
Javon Walker. Remember Javon Walker?
Yeah. Yeah. And because I remember Noshawn Moreno played for the Broncos, passed away too. I can't remember how he passed away.
Oh, man. You brought up a name from the past. Oh, wow. Noshawn Moreno.
Yeah, that one got me too because he was a guy I liked watching play the game. I think it was him. Was he?
Looks like he's still alive.
Oh, no, he's still alive. I'm thinking that's Noshawn Moreno. There's another player on the Broncos I'm thinking about.
Javon Walker.
Who was it?
Darren Williamson got shot.
Yeah.
Darren Williamson got shot.
Yeah, Darren Williamson got shot.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought about Moreno, but it was definitely a Broncos player that
are you like me? You just killing niggas off? The last night I said Tim Reed was dead. You're like, Tim Reed is very much alive.
Yeah, Tim Reed. Yeah, Tim Reed. Yeah, Tim Reed. But no, in that video, it was John Witherspoon who did pass away. Yeah. And I always like seeing him, like the clips of him on that show, on the Richard Pryor show, because when I got introduced to him, mostly he was like an older guy. He was playing like uncles and grandpas and stuff like that, or dads. And to see him like younger, it's kind of like watching that now. And like your point of reference for what's her name, Marsha Warfield is Night Court.
Mm-hmm.
You see her in that show, you're like, oh, what's going on here? It's that show was hilarious. It's definitely a show that I think would have had. Like, it was ahead of its time because some of the humor kind of reminds me of what made the Dave Chappelle shows so popular in the 2000s. And it just so happened to be hosted by one of the greatest comedians of all time. So there is that. The things that Kowalski in particular spoke about the things that could threaten the game, and Ken also really stuck with me as well. Because I thought that, one of the things I thought about football was that unlike basketball, and especially baseball, football was kind of insulated from it becoming like a game that like only, children of former players get to play, or people in like, the upper middle income, upper class get to play, or even the wealthy, get to play. And actually make it to like colleges in the league. But decline of population in rural areas is a big threat, in my opinion. Some of the consolidation of school systems and stuff like that also came to mind. I mean, I think about the town of South Carolina where I grew up, and our high school had a little bit of notoriety because our coach had, at least at one point, I don't know if he still has it, but he had the record for the most wins of any high school coach because he was there for 10,000 years. What happened in the years since my graduation is the population blew up there because it was one of those places where manufacturing finally decided to show their faces. After running to other, union-free areas in the South, and the population in that area just blew up when I left. So much that they had to build another high school, which also blew up all the old rivalries behind the high school. So I went to my homecoming, went to a class reunion some years ago, and it was the weekend of the homecoming playing against the old rival. And it just wasn't the same because of the extra schools that were in the area. It kind of blew up some of the old, like the kids who used to go to the school. It was like our high school was kind of a consolidation place. If you lived in the sprawled out areas of the town, as well as the core of the town, you all went to the same high schools. You went to different middle schools, but you went to the same high school. So you got to see people from across town that you would otherwise not interact with. I used to thought that was cool, but now it's messed up because now it's back to being more regional, where you live in the sprawled area, you go into one school, you leave in the core, you go to this school. A lot of the same kids that used to go to school geographically are going to the same schools in the rest of this South Carolina. But then I also think about when here in Ohio, I have some people I know because one of my sisters went to Mount Union, which is a college in Stark County. It's south of, but it's almost it's in kind of like a little bit of ways away from Canton, Ohio, and that's like the closest city to where that is. It's also the school from the Eagles head coach, Nick Sirianni, who's also from my hometown. Yeah, Sirianni, who's also from my hometown, went to that school. And he's from like the New York hometown. That's what I mean. He went to that school. And one of the people that my sister knew there lives in or around Massillon, Ohio, where they have a huge high school football program. That's when I kind of got really locked into like the high school football culture here in Ohio. Mm. It's not Texas, but it's very close. I mean, there's a lot of big schools, big programs, and some of them are in rural areas. And I just think about, well, I already know the population is dwindling there, so how do they maintain that? And when you go to the city, it's a big deal. Like you see, get your tickets here and all this other stuff, and it's kind of cool to see that. Mm-hmm. But I always wonder, how do they sustain that when you know what's going on, like economically and around that area? So it's one of those questions I never really looked into, but I went into it. But yeah, that definitely was a big concern, because that's one of the things that gives football its heart, is that you don't have to come from these places. I mean, you look at somebody like Jalen Carter, who is a kind of a wonderkind in the NFL right now. His second year, looking like one of the best defensive, tackles in the league. And he's from Apopka, Florida, which is a pretty rough place. I think it's near, I can't remember where it is in state. I want to say it's a little bit off from Orlando, but it's kind of from the rougher side. And it's like a lot of these players that come from places like that, you wouldn't see them on the sports, certainly not baseball nowadays. Basketball maybe, but football is usually where you see players coming from places like that. So that was a different thing. And yeah, I definitely agree about gambling and fantasy football and all that other stuff is taking away from the enjoyment, fantasy, whatever, taking away from the enjoyment of sports. Like, I don't participate in any of that stuff, specifically because I don't want my experience to be compromised. I don't want to have to randomly root for, I got to think of a team that kicks me off.
You don't want to root against your team, right? I don't want to root against my team when I'm watching my team. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy a game. Yeah, look, you can enjoy the hell out of a game when you don't have anything on the line and you're just watching cats play. I love that shit, dude.
Right.
Just watching cats play.
Right.
Oh, man. College football this year has had some of the best games. Some of the best games.
Yeah.
Oh, man. USC, despite their record, played in some really good games this year against Penn State, against Michigan, hell, even against Minnesota. Those were some great games to watch. If I had money on them, I'd be watching them from a whole different perspective. I'd be a different kind of upset at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And one of my friends back home goes back to middle school days. He has adopted the Gamecocks as his college football team, and they've had a great season.
Great season
this season. They had a lot of close calls, but
that game against Alabama was so fun.
Great game against. And the Clemson game was also a good one. He hasn't had so much joy watching the Gamecocks in years, but this one, I think it was a really special season for him. And speaking of college squads, the news that my favorite college team is going to have Bill Belichick as coach is, I don't know how that's going to play out. I really don't. I don't know how he's going to handle that environment. I mean, my only hope is that maybe they get a better defense. Now that they have a guy who's known for defense coaching them.
This is what I heard.
But I don't know how that's going to play out.
This is what I heard, and this is just what I heard, right? I heard it just like everybody else that watched the show. CBS Sports has a pretty decent sports show because it's a little lower budget. So I think they're just a little more free to say things that don't have to fall in line with what everybody else is saying in like ESPN or Fox, right? And one of their pundits said something real interesting. They said Bill Belichick's 73 years old, and he doesn't have to get that many wins to be the winningest coach of all time, even if they're not in the NFL, apparently. And his son is a really good defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. And there's a rumor that maybe he does the job for a couple of years and then hands it to his son. And you might have a legacy thing going on there in North Carolina. And they're already going to start spending money for the transfer portal. I don't think he's going to want to navigate something so unregulated like the transfer portal. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's the attitude I'm taking because I don't know how this is going to go. But it's going to probably result in being easier to watch those games out of market. But that's just one of the wild stories. I also wanted to briefly touch about something that came up in the chat about the very manufactured supposed rift between Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts and wide receiver A.J. Brown. When A.J. Brown made those comments, because watched the Eagles for decades, and specifically these last couple of years with the Eagles, I knew that AJ's comment was more about the playbook than it was about the quarterback. And if I had one concern about the team, it's not necessarily quarterback, but it's like how the offense is run specifically early in the games. And there's a lot of factors that go into what's been going on with the passing game in particular, where mainly the biggest thing to me has been, both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have missed multiple games due to the same injury, a hamstring injury, this season. And that kind of like blows up your ability to, build like, rhythm with players because you've been playing with them over and over and over again. I mean, you see it like when, any team that loses their like the top receivers, like things just kind of hit to a halt. Like a good example of this has been watching, not just receivers, but the players that make impact on players. The 49ers, for example, this season they've been devastated by injuries. I think Ayuk went out for the season. CMC left early because of injuries. I don't think they should have rushed him back.
Debo was
he's out again.
Yeah,
Debo. It's like they had some interesting players like Mason. They still have Jennings. They still have Kittle, Juszczyk, these guys. But when you don't have the guys that you like work the most with, you're going to see these kind of results happening with teams. So of course they happen with the Eagles, and they also with the Eagles. Again, one of my biggest complaints over the last couple of seasons is how the game has been managed from a coaching perspective and play calling perspective. And one of the things that happened this year was the lineman, Lane Johnson in particular, at least he's the one who admitted to saying this, went to the coaches and say, hey, we need to run the ball. And they started running the ball with possibly the best running back in the league right now. And things changed for the Eagles. So now, the Eagles can just take what they give to them. And one thing I appreciate about the Eagles more than any other team in the NBA, in the NFL, not just because they're the team I work for, is because they are like, fuck your fantasy football. We are winning this game. Whatever happens on the field, we're just going to win by whatever situation we have to get. We're not concerned about who gets how many touches, who gets how many catches, who gets the touchdowns. We're just trying to win these games. And that's an attitude that, every team in the league should have. And really, you look at a team like your greatly despised Chiefs, you see how they have been winning games.
Yep.
It's very tempting to say that it's devil magic on the part of Mahomes. But, Mahomes' like passing numbers haven't been great this season.
No.
And they've just been pulling games out of their ass, in ways that make you think it is actual voodoo going on the field. And But nobody makes not too many, at least none of the talking heads make a big deal about it. Not saying all this weird stuff about Mahomes because his passing numbers aren't what they are. And like any other team you can mention that's been winning. And then you look at a team like the Bengals, shout out to Sith Lord Prince, I know he might be still in the chat. You look at what Joe Burrow has been doing passing-wise in this season. There was a bit of a snag earlier when they lost to the Patriots and didn't have didn't have Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, so that didn't go well for them. But since that point, like Burrow has been like putting up massive stats against most teams they've been playing. And the only reason they managed to beat the Cowboys on Monday night was because the special teams made a big blunder.
That broke my heart, Clizzle.
Yeah,
I watched that.
I couldn't. Oh. I couldn't watch it.
Man, I wasn't even going to watch the end of that game. I was doing something. I was writing scripts for the show, intro scripts for the show, and questions on stuff for the week. And I was in TJ. I was in Tijuana because the power is this nightmare out here, right? And I walked to this kind of nice little food court they have out there, and I was like, maybe they'll play the game, and I'll have some nachos and watch the game. And I got there. I'm like, oh, 2020. What a pleasant surprise. I see the Bengals punt. I'm like, oh, Cowboys can win the game. And when that dude got in front of the ball, I'm like, oh, no. And it bounced off him. You're like,
that was.
I felt everything Micah Parsons was saying. I couldn't lip read it, but I felt it.
Yeah, like, because, the thing that's the most heartbreaking, and this is, how it's bad, because this is the Cowboys we're talking about.
Yeah.
Things to say about them. But when you saw that the defense got a 4th and 26, and the ball was getting punted to them, and then they blocked that punt. You were thinking, oh, yeah, the Cowboys are going to walk away with this one. And then that happened. And then it led to another, another touchdown from Burrow to Chase. And, from the Bengals perspective, you got away with one. You got away with one. And, it's kind of a clean game. It was kind of a clean game. There was a lot of funny style, like, calls happening in that game. They were going back and forth. It was entertaining. Even if you weren't watching the Homer Simpson feed, it was still an entertaining football game to watch.
Yeah.
And it was, and then that ending was just so wild, But if you're a Bengals fan who's been watching the team that's put up points after points after points and touchdown after touchdown after touchdown and still losing, like they put up nearly 40 points in the game with I don't know how many yards passed and how many touchdowns made and lost. And that has got to be very difficult. Like the Bengals defense is selling like so badly. I know it's got to be frustrating for that team and specifically for Burrow, who was doing more than enough. And I mean, you go up 71 to the Browns and look at what they're doing. And this is the argument that I always make about when people start talking all this shit about Jalen Hurts not throwing X amount of yards or whatever every game. And I'm like, look, you can do like Jameis and throw 400 plus yards and have multiple touchdowns passing touchdowns during the game and still lose because of turnover. So you want the guy to start throwing, going extra anticipatory and gunslinging it and turn the ball over? Or do you actually see a good thing they have going on and, controlling the ball, not, turning the ball over and the defense just kicking out? That's another thing I'll talk about the Eagles real quick. About when you guys talked about, like, you're starting to see white guys play positions that you don't usually see. The Eagles have 2 such players. Cooper DeJean, the rookie, who's been amazing. Yeah. That hit he put on Derrick Henry against the Ravens, that was legendary. Mm-hmm. So you have Cooper DeJean, who's really showing out as a rookie. And then you have a guy who's been with the team a couple of years. He plays safety. Reed Blankenship has been out a couple of weeks with a concussion. But that guy is like has a knack to being right where the ball is and getting interceptions. And jokingly, and I think it's even caught on so much that you're starting to see them wear T-shirts with this on. Like the 2 of them are called the Exciting Whites after like what they call. I think the name came from a wine selection that was called the Exciting Whites. That's what they called the two of them. But, you know, the real star of that defense, I mean, rookie star, I mean, as great as DeJean has been, Quinyon Mitchell has been, like, he came out of Toledo. He kind of fell to the Eagles. And, man, that guy has shut off, like, it's almost like old Nnamdi Asomugha, where that side of the field is completely off limits for opposing offenses. And that's the lesson that, you know, both Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow learned. Because the two least point games, except I think there's 3 games where the Bengals had low scores with Joe Burrow playing quarterback. That was the Patriots game, which was a toilet. The Giants game, problem is the Giants couldn't put points on the board. I think they only scored 17 against the Giants and only scored 17 against the Eagles. And Chase was held to, at least when they tried to put him against Quinyon, he had like 2 catches for, I forget how many yards. It was a low amount of yards. And that's one of the ways they've been winning these games. So one of the things that's really annoying about the AJ Jalen Hurts manufactured controversy, which, again, if you've been following the team, you know what he was talking about. You knew what Jalen was talking about, and Devontae Smith, and even the coach. I think they did a good PR cleaning up that misunderstanding. But I don't know what it is about the people who cover the Eagles professionally, but the last couple of seasons, it's like they were trying to shove A.J. Brown out of town with all the weird stuff they were saying about him. I was like, we already went through this with T.O. We do not need to do this now when the team is good again. And it's just really, really annoying. But I'm glad that they cleaned that up today. And hopefully that will cease to be a topic because they're playing the Steelers. And the Steelers are on a bit of a roll right now.
Yes.
Unexpected roll, in my opinion. But, you know, it's interesting watching these teams across the league. Detroit. I mean, your Broncos surprised me a couple of weeks ago versus the Browns. And again, that was a game marred by turnovers from the Browns side. But watching Bo Nix operate, I can see some things there. That guy is pretty, you know, he's not Lamar Jackson,
Nope.
but he does get rid of the ball really quickly. When he gets steps out of the pocket, he's deadly. I saw the same thing with Bryce Young this past week and the last couple of weeks, really. Those guys are kind of dangerous guys when they step out of the pocket and can extend plays. And I like to see that for both of those guys, but particularly with Bryce Young, who people just threw in the bushes and were like, oh, yeah, he's a bust. Yeah. No, the team is ass. I hate they need to get better.
I mean, you know how I am, Claw. I hate the bust. And, Claw, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate you, brother.
Yep.
Thank you for the call, Claw.
Yep.
You want to say something before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say, in case this is the last time I call this year, I want to say that this year, I didn't get to leave my home a lot, like my home area a lot this year. And the DC show was the event of the year for me, to actually see all of you guys and to speak to all of you guys, to speak to Pascal, to speak to, you know, to see you and see Derek Barn and Spencer Leonard and even Medea Benjamin just kind of just show up at that that event. Jeff Kennedy, to see Billy. I hadn't seen him in a while, but I remember he was on the show. See Quinn. It's kind of weird when you actually, and then Cleveland Rocks, who was sitting right behind me, getting to meet him. Just randomly, it was a great event, and you know, DC is a city that I could manage with that family there. I don't think I had as much fun as I did. Maybe the second most was when I went to Buffalo this year. But I had a great time there, and I hope I get a chance to do that again. It was really great to actually meet and talk to you guys, even for a few minutes. It was a really great event. So if anybody who's listening, if you get a chance to go to them, definitely go. Everybody there is cool, it's chill, it's regular, there's no weirdness. It's just, you know, it's a good time. And that's all I got to say, man.
Damn it. Thank you. Have a good night, Claw. Damn it. Is this the last call-in thing we're going to do for the year? I don't know. Pascal's not watching this, so he doesn't know, which is really funny. his birthday show is coming up, and I can't make it. I actually have to go see my son, and it's literally the same time. I can't be a part of it in any capacity. It's seeing my son at 6. The show's at 6, so I won't be there for that. And that was initially I was going to open the phone lines for that, but that's not going to happen. And I think some of the other things we're doing towards the end of the year are already pre-done things. So I don't know. I'll try to find a way to do another call in, because this is fun. This is a lot of fun actually for me. And when Dr. Claw makes that comment about coming out to the live show and what it's like to meet the other people that you interact with in the chat and some of us on the screen, it is a lot of fun. And that, I don't know if that was the best one we did, but I know that, how can I put it? I love all the live stuff we get to do. And Ben and I try to do live stuff on our own without our booking agent. Please don't be listening to this and get mad, TJ. We don't do it that much, TJ, okay? Because we know you do the big stuff. But when Ben, published with Everyday Analysis and we did the little thing in LA, even that was a lot of fun to do, because we just don't get a chance to get out and meet you guys and hang out with you guys. And to hear so many callers call in and say, oh, I'm in LA, or I'm in San Diego, or I'm in Orange County. See so many people say it in the chat. It's like, oh, fuck, you should come hang out with us at the fucking Vampire Goth Bar. You'd have a ball. And Ben and I, we threw around this idea that if Trump won, we wanted to do a fuck your wall show here in Mexico, here in TJ. Still tossing that around how we could do it. But if we did something like that, would you guys be down to come across the border to hang out for a live show? We'll definitely have some topics, and so people will come out. It'll be a good time. I promise. Or should we just do a meetup at the Vampire Goth Bar one night? It has a name, by the way, but you guys don't care about the name, so I'll just keep calling it the Vampire Goth Bar. Let me know. And Snippy whispers in your ear, have you been a good comrade this year? That Snippy the elf shit is hilarious. It was cool meeting Dr. Claw. You know why? Because the motherfucker was really tall. I think I pictured Jeffrey Osborne in my head so much. He doesn't look like Jeffrey Osborne, but he's very tall. Look, dude, I love the live stuff so much. I would love an idea that we floated around. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe you give a shit. If you don't give a shit, tell me to shut up and I'll just end the show. An idea we floated around. If you watch my book launch for my book that I did with Everyday Analysis, my pamphlet, we wanted to do more things there at my buddy Greg's place, because that's where all the band guys go to get their guitars fixed. Again, as you saw on the wall, all those heavy metal legends guitars, punk rock legends guitars. And he had it set up. I think there was 4 cameras. As you saw, we had mics. We had everything kind of set. So what we wanted to do was, at least once a month, interviews at Greg's. But there's a lot of logistics of getting that done. Greg is not a podcaster, but we talked about trying to do it down here, how it would work. But I would much rather do in-person stuff with someone else, with a studio audience. That shit is a lot of fun. That shit is so much fun. So I definitely want to do more of that. Kushlik says that they have something other than beer to drink. Yeah, I go there. I don't drink. So of course. You and I could be there not drinking together, having a great fucking time. So, Snippy the Elf shit, guys. Can you guys please watch the Hotline movie, please? Just watch it. Watch it and tell me I'm retarded for liking it. I really dig that movie. I think you guys should dig that movie. Just for when you hear the killer call, you'll be like, damn, that is some Snippy the Elf ass shit. And I fell down a yacht rock rabbit hole listening to this playlist that I made a while back. So I put it in the chat. Listen to that. That is a black yacht rock playlist. It's called Music You Missed, Yacht Rock Edition. You will love it. I have been dancing around my house like George Jefferson all morning. I live alone, so when I wake up, the music comes on. So, mixed drinks, hard alcohol. They have that in spades, Kush. Look, you'll be fine. It's just the music is really fucking loud. Is Ned Doheny on it? No, Dr. Smurfo, but there's some other white people that you probably don't know. Finns Henderson is on it. Bobby Caldwell's on it. Ambrosia's on it. Maurice White's solo stuff is on it. Jesse Johnson is on it. Reby Jackson is on it. Kashif. George Benson. Herb Albert. Sade, of course. Jane Child. Trust me, you will enjoy that playlist of yacht rocky tunes. If you're not dancing around your house like George Jefferson after you listen to that playlist, then you have no soul. You have no soul. NPR voice Snippy. I love the Snippy the Elf shit, dude. That's my new Snippy the Elf right now is funnier than Pog Chaser MLK, which is still a character that you guys don't understand how much it just hurts all of my credibility in black media. Like, that's why I can't get on Tavis Smiley. Can't get on. What? The nigga that does the MLK shit? Oh, hell no. Damn it. Come on, Tavis. I'm sitting there like Eddie Kane from the 5 Heartbeats. Like, come on, Tavis. Nights like this, I wish. Maverick says, must be a new type of yacht. Yeah. It's a fucking black ass yacht. Okay. It's a hood yacht, not a puffy yacht. There's some newer stuff. Don Blackman's on it. I was dancing. Getting in the the music has just been playing all morning, and that yabba dabba doo baby that shit came on, and I just couldn't help but to dance to those goofy ass fucking lyrics. Maybe one of the goofiest songs I've ever heard. Nights by Billy Ocean. That is Billy Ocean's dopest song he's ever done. You know Billy, get out of my dream. No. Put in just one of them nights. You will lose your shit to this playlist. You will dance all over your cubicle like George Jefferson playing this playlist. So enjoy. It's a pontoon boat on cinder blocks. I'll find that video. It's somewhere where someone literally had a fucking boat in front of my door. They threw a boat away in front of my boat filled with trash. and my friend Tina and I had to move the boat. And then we recorded it because it was like the 5th or 6th boat that someone had thrown away just on our street. Not in the area, just on our street. That's how many boats we saw get thrown away. Throwing away a fucking boat. Lee Rittenauer's on this. Jesus Molina's on this. Who else? Taste of Honey is on this. Ray Parker Jr. is on this. Carrie Lucas. There's a lot of stuff on this. 82 songs. How many hours is this playlist? 6 hours and 30 minutes. 6.5 hours of grooving ass songs. The Doobie Brothers. It opens up with Keeps You Running. This Is It. Kenny Loggins. Yes, Dr. Claus says the video of Nights is where he has the tiger in it. Yes, Billy Ocean has a tiger. I'm telling you, one of the Nights by Billy Ocean. Song is hard as fuck. So I'm going to go tighten up this thing for tomorrow with Malika Jabali. I saw she just emailed and confirmed that she's coming on. I'm very excited for a plethora of reasons. Thank you guys so much. And now I get to play my favorite opening and ending song. Thank you. I am out.